Alright guys, so I'm ready to start the last phase of this, or second to last phase, which is the paint. So all the sandblasting is done, as I showed you before, including the motor case. I didn't take all of this down, but it's sandblasted enough to be clean enough. And now it's cleaning and then paint. So what I've decided to do is, for cleaning, I'm going to wash everything down with Purple Power 50/50 1-to-1 with water. Rinse it all off nicely, and then I'm going to use some acetone to get any oil off. Then initially I thought what I would do is spray epoxy primer everywhere. But I think what I'm going to do is on the interior parts, I'm going to use POR and just brush it on, and really I don't think I'll be able to spray very effectively into those spots. So you know, I'll be able to spray in here, but I don't think I really want to. But like down here, there's no way I can spray epoxy primer in there. So I'm just going to take a brush into POR and do basically the B sides of areas where I can't spray. So it'll be this side, this part, and this part. And I think the others like the motor cover, relay cover, I should be able to spray. So that's what I'm going to get to next, is the cleaning. I could have gotten a larger bin to clean in. Certainly would have been easier. Yeah, that's smooth enough. I polished this up. That's the wear surface I told you about before. I don't remember if I did the bushing. I have to do that inside bushing with some fine emery cloth just to make sure that there's no extra resistance or wear. Honestly, like, I'm not really sure why I'm going through all of this. I think I'm way overkilling it, but it's okay. We want it done right? So, let me get some water. There's something gratifying about just getting it done, like, fully. And I suppose a hose would be better, since it is warm enough. Maybe I'll defer to the hose. What do you think? Should we wash all these off by hose? I think that's probably better. Yeah, so what I'll do is I'm going to soap all of these up, and then I will hose them off and then dry them off with some compressed air. Okay, so let me do that. You guys don't need to watch me scrubbing these, do you? I didn't think so. Alright, I'll be back. Well, let's do a couple more. I'm really happy with how the sandblasting thing worked out. I don't know if I'll use it. You know, it's certainly not going to be a frequent thing, and I'm not like a restoration guy. There's plenty of those guys on YouTube, and they do a much better job than I do, and you know, I don't have the time available. It's not my job to do that, I guess. It's their job. I'm assuming those guys, that's their full-time thing. But it would be fun, I have to admit. Like, part of me says, oh, wouldn't it be fun to do that like 100% of the time and make money on YouTube? But where's the guarantee in that? Like, how do you know? How do you know it's going to work? Kids and bills and stuff. Well, it's not for me. I missed that part of YouTube. Anyway, I'm gonna wash these up, and I'll bring you back when they're cleaned up. Couple parts washed. Let's dry them off. So I used the degreaser, brushed them out, rinsed them out. Now we're gonna just use some compressed air and rinse them or dry them off, and then I'll let them sit, maybe heat them up a little bit, make sure everything's dried off. Alright, time to clean. I'm going to use some acetone. These parts have been sitting here for, I don't know, about 2 weeks. In the open air. I've not gotten to doing anything. Life just gets in the way, but ideally, because aluminum starts to corrode right away, oxidize right away I should say, best practice is to try to apply some sort of coating to it right after you're done sandblasting. So clean it up after you sandblast and apply something to it. A lot of people, well, I don't know, I'm not an expert, so I'm not going to make a recommendation, and I'm not going to re-sandblast any of this stuff. So we're just going to do the best that we can here. Cleaning it up, and then we're going to apply POR to the B surfaces, so the areas that are not visible to light, basically the inside mechanism areas, so the underbelly of the winch. I'm going to try not to get the POR into the gear areas, the bearing areas, and the areas that have friction wear by design, and no threaded areas, and we'll see how successful I am. Probably won't be that successful. So I'm going to clean all this up. I'll bring you back when I'm ready to paint. Okay, here we go. Let's see how welded this can is. I used it a few months ago, and if you've never used POR, it's basically like a single stage epoxy. The stuff is like super gluey. That wasn't too eventful. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stir it up, and my plan is I don't want to dip the brush in here. You always want to take fluid out, but I don't like pouring it. So I'm either going to suck it up in here after I stir it up. I'm going to use these to put them in places, or well, those are the two options. Definitely stir this stuff up, because see that? That's the stuff that actually works, and so you've got to do a thorough job of stirring this stuff up. really work on it as much as you know, beyond the point of being patient. Otherwise, it's not going to have the right impact that you want. So let me bring you back. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to do this part first. I've decided I'm going to use this bottle, take the fluid out. Come on. Mix it up with whatever old stuff that there was in there. And I'm going to use an old chip brush. Try to get all the loose fibers out, or an acid brush, the same sort of thing. I'll probably stick with these because they're plentiful and cheaper. And here we go. So like that, and then spread the wealth. Overkill? Probably. Necessary? Probably not at all. But since I'm doing the stuff on the other parts, I might as well be complete. I also did order and receive all the replacement wearables. So the you saw me replace the bearings. I got the gaskets. I scored a remote control, the correct thermometric remote control on eBay for this particular winch. So I'm happy about that, and hopefully everything will work when assembled. So there's hope. So this is I don't want to get into those holes. Those holes are through holes. There's no thread in them. But I still would prefer not to get in there like I just did. When you're working with POR, you absolutely, positively must wear gloves, unless you really don't care about your skin. And I don't mean like, oh, I don't care, it's just a little bit of gasoline. I mean, this stuff just doesn't come off. So you're either gonna sandpaper your skin off, or you're gonna walk around with this shit on your hands for a really, really long time. If you don't care about that, then don't wear gloves. My recommendation, however, is wear gloves. Ask me how I know, because I've probably still got black stuff on me somewhere. Okay, so this part we're gonna let sit overnight, and then let's what should we do next? How about motor case? Motor case, I'm gonna do the inside. I don't think I'm gonna do the outside, because the outside is quite well painted or powder coated. The stuff was not coming off in the sandblaster, and so I'm just gonna do the inside of it and try to stay out of the threads where the grounds are and everything. But that should be okay. There's that should be fine. Can you see? Have you guys watched Musty One videos? I find myself kind of addicted to watching him. He's really good. He's a VW kind of collector, aficionado, but more than that, the stuff that he can do with, you know, like small engine repair, he really is, let me move you here, he really is masterful. And I say that with like real, you know, like envy. He's really good at fixing small engines. You know, he'll pick them up at yard sales, and I like his method. He'll, you know, over time he's developed the priorities. He'll verify that there's spark and compression, and then basically after that, regardless of what shape the carburetor is in, he'll throw some fuel and try to get, you know, try to get the engine to crank over in some shape or form. So basically, once you've got fuel, ignition, and compression, he's pretty confident that he can get it to run, because he's really good at fixing carburetors. And I think that is a lost art. I kind of wonder whether or not my kids will know how to fix old stuff. I'm trying to teach my son, at least. He has an affinity for vintage stuff like typewriters and tape recorders and stuff like that, and so, not that technology is bad, certainly it's going to run a lot more things, but there's something to be said about the sound the typewriter makes and how a book and newspaper feels in your hand, you know. That's why I'm never going to drive a Tesla. Not because the technology is not cool, it is, but I like the sound of an engine, you know. I used to play with slot cars when I was a little kid, but I never thought about driving one. I always wanted to drive my dad's car. He had an old Skoda from where we were from. Rear engine, basically kind of like a shittier VW. And yeah, I love the engine sound. Since day one, I always wanted to drive. Anyway, so let's see. This part, I think, is just about done. Let me finish this off, and then we'll move on to the next part. I don't think you guys want to watch the whole process of me PORing all these parts. So let's do a nasty one. Let's do this one. Nasty is in, I think it's, oh, I did exactly what I said I wasn't going to do. See that? So, all these areas were powder coated, and as you remember, the powder coat was just flaking off. Now, what's to say that the POR won't flake off either? Well, I hope that I prepped these well enough. I mean, the key with POR, like any other coating, is prep. So you know, I tried my best. I sandblasted it and I degreased it and cleaned all the schmoo, as Avi would say, off as best as I could. And from that on, like, I just hope God damn it. I hope the product works, 'cause that's all I can do. So I'm gonna continue with this part. Dab will do you here, 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 and here. And then I will bring you back. Alright, here's what I've done so far. That, drying nicely. I did the other side. Also, I'm not going to move it. Here's this side. That's this gliding surface, so I'm not going to do that. If you can see, move it a little. All that. Now we get to this part. And so this surface is a gliding surface. I am going to do the quadrants here and the ring, but not the wall here and the gear. So let me do that. If you guys want to stick around and watch, you can. But what I've been doing is basically just dropping a little POR in these places. Like that. I'm on my third brush, just because, you know, it picks up dust, and after it starts to dry, the POR starts to become kind of gummy and then eventually hard, and you can't really brush anymore. So that's why it's best to use a cheap one if you can. And you know, this is why powder coat's so nice, because it can get into these areas, because all these areas can be statically or electrostatically charged, and the powder will just go where the charge is, or it can be dipped, but I don't think you'd want to do that on the gears. So I'll bring you back. Okay, so all the parts are POR'd. On some of these where I thought I couldn't get into spray, I just brushed the black POR in, and I left surfaces that need to be greased or otherwise friction surfaces bare. So let me show you. I don't want to move them because I've got them kind of situated so that they don't touch the paper where the POR is. So kind of excited, and I think this will work out well. And we'll see. If you lay the POR on pretty thick, you can see it lays down pretty well. Obviously, brushing it leaves a lot of bubbles and such. That's why we're going to epoxy the A surface and then top coat it. So top coat's going to be glossy black, just like this. And that's it. So next time, hopefully, we'll be spraying epoxy on the A surface and then top coat. All right. So the B side is all POR'd. I'll show you some of the parts. You could see where kind of pooled in there, but that's okay. Here's some of the other parts. I was able to keep that bearing or bushing clear. You can see a lot of dust and debris. There's a hair there from the brush, but in general we're okay. Again, this is not the visible surface, so it doesn't really bother me too much. And yeah, so I guess that's good. So from here, like I said, I did do this side because I don't think I'll be able to spray or get very good coverage in there, so I might scuff this up and when I paint it. So from here, the next step is epoxy primer and then top coat.